Hello again. My name is Livi Michael. I'm the author of 20 books, one PhD thesis, several articles and short stories, and a play. I also run a podcast about short fiction called Small Pleasures, together with short story writer and translator Sonia Moore. I've taught creative writing for over 30 years in many different institutions, and I've had an even longer relationship with the publishing world. In that time, the publishing industry has changed dramatically, and my experience of it has varied a great deal. So, the reason I wanted to start this series was to share some of the things I've learned with you from working with thousands of writers, with my own creative process, and with the publishing industry. It's aimed mainly at those of you who have experienced difficulties of one kind or another with publishing, whether through failure or success. You might be subject to the demands and expectations of other people, or discouraged by many rejections to the point where you ask yourself, what am I writing for? Well, in order to answer that, in this episode, I'm exploring a different question. What is creativity? If anyone has their own definition of creativity, please feel free to pop it into the comments section, because as far as I'm aware, no one actually knows what it is. There's no single authoritative definition, although there are many theories, but ideas about it have changed over the centuries. This is what the Oxford English Dictionary has to say. Creativity is the process of producing ideas and objects that are original and worthwhile, i.e., useful, attractive, meaningful, or correct. It also involves the use of skill and imagination to produce something new or to produce art. Whereas California State University defines creativity as the tendency to generate or recognize ideas, alternatives, or possibilities that may be useful in solving problems, communicating with others, and entertaining ourselves and others. So these two definitions are a bit different. The second one moves away from the objects and products of the first towards ideas, problem solving, and entertainment. In terms of entertainment, children's play has been recognised as a creative activity since the early 19th century. In play, children do generate ideas, exercise skills, produce objects, and use them in new ways. So that might suggest that we're instinctively creative from childhood. Another idea popular in the early 19th century was the concept of the artist as divinely inspired. The creative person was set apart from other producers, such as factory workers, by inspiration that came from God or nature, and by originality, i.e., by producing something uniquely theirs, like Beethoven's Fifth or Wordsworth's Prelude, that no one else could produce. This wasn't a new idea, and in fact, it can be traced back to ancient Greece. Socrates thought that creativity was the result of divine inspiration and an altered state of mind or madness that came about when the muses breathed into someone. This idea gives a special status to the word creativity and to the creative person. Sadly, over the centuries, it's had the unfortunate effect of excluding certain people on the grounds of race, gender, or class. Not everyone was worthy to receive the divine breath of the muse. Well, I'm not disposed to think that certain people are set apart by creativity. I think the human race is essentially a creative species. Where would it be without the ability to produce ideas and objects, or to use skill and imagination to solve problems? We're not, after all, that well equipped to survive in the wild in terms of speed, strength, or sensory acuity. Creativity or ingenuity seems to be key to our survival. We've created societies and empires, buildings, transport, religions, philosophies, industries, technologies, laws, and systems of knowledge. Is it even possible to list the number of inventions we've produced since someone first made fire or a wheel? Whoever looked at a blade of wheat and thought bread? or wine from a grape, or cheese from a cow. But if we're creative as a species in general, individually our experience of creativity differs and we exercise it in different ways. One person might be a talented engineer, another a brilliant sculptor. Genetics is probably responsible for some of this. There are physical differences between a flautist and a pianist, for example. Great singers have certain physical attributes which determine the kind of singer they are and how long their career might last. The career of a ballet dancer might be over before they're 40. Within the field of writing, we have great dramatists, poets, novelists, short story writers, and non-fiction writers. It's relatively rare that a writer is equally gifted in more than one of these fields, and that's just one of the mysteries of creativity that's never been fully explored. In some cultures, creativity is linked to destruction. The Hindu goddess Kali is associated with both, for instance, and in China and Japan, the symbol of the dragon represents both creative and destructive energies. It's true to say that the history of creativity has involved destruction in terms of resources or exploitation, think pyramids, cathedrals, etc., and in terms of personal cost. But it's also true that when creative energy isn't expressed, it can become destructive. In my own case, when I'm not writing, I get dispirited, bad-tempered, unmotivated. Life loses meaning. And I know that my bad mood affects other people around me. If enough people suppress their creativity, we might imagine this malaise spreading. Is it too far-fetched to imagine a negative energy affecting the well-being not only of individuals, but of the species, and by extension, the planet? Creativity has been explored in some depth by scientists and psychologists. I can't do it full justice here. I think it's worth mentioning, however, that even scientific ideas about creativity change over time. There was the theory, for instance, that the left side of the brain was more creative than the right, and that certain individuals were more oriented to left brain functioning than others, which reprises the idea that some individuals are more creative than others. However, these days, neuroscientists have used sophisticated brain scanning techniques to demonstrate that no one area of the brain is responsible for creative activity. Several different neuronal networks are involved at different stages of the creative process. If that's the case, we have to abandon the ideas that certain individuals are more attuned to the creative left side of their brain than others. So let's say that the human race is a creative species in general. We create, therefore we are. Each person's creative gift is a little different from the next, but we all need to exercise that gift in order to survive. If you have a gift for painting, you need to paint. If it's for writing, you need to write. If you ever feel inclined to ask yourself why you're bothering to write when no one's publishing you, tell yourself that you're writing for your own well-being in order to survive and to save the planet. That's what writing for life means, whether or not anyone publishes you. I'll be returning to the question of how to cope with the publishing industry and the idea of validation in future episodes. So do stay tuned and join in the conversation. It will be lovely to hear from you. This is Livi Michael saying goodbye for now and happy writing.